Hello everybody, and we're back. Welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. My name is Ryan Clifford. Deal Brendan in. Enjoying me this episode is my good man Daniel. Daniel, how are you? Obviously tonight's topic, bit different. As Brendan Rodgers getting a new deal, the biggest thing we can do this summer, or do you think it's just a bonus, mate? That is a topic. I hope you're very well. Hope everyone else joins us very well. Hope you're having a good Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. And we'll kick on for tonight's show. Daniel, how are you, mate? And as Brendan signing the biggest fight we can do this summer, mate?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Ryan. I'm all right, mate. I hope you're well as well. For me, I think keeping Brendan is going to be very, very important this summer. Obviously, we know he's got, is it 1 year left, less than a year, something like that. So I think if we definitely need to put the offer to him. It's just whether he's willing to actually take it, because he said when he signed he will stay the 3 years. Obviously, he did say that he was here for the 10 last time and then he left us. But it's just a case of waiting and see what happens. But I feel like if we don't offer, then I feel like it would be a very, very silly move.
Aye, I think you're right, Daniel. I'd imagine there will be an offer probably on the table in some sort of capacity right now, I'd imagine. Well, I think personally, I think if there's not, then I think it could be quite a silly move. I know he did mention in the season that he would go and speak to Brendan and think Brendan. I think he'd be going to speak to Desmond. He mentioned, and obviously the hierarchy as well. So I'm assuming that might have been something it's going to obviously implement in the transfers, because I think a lot of fans don't know if they'll be of this opinion or the other opinion, but the first opinion of Daniel might be, if he's not going to stay, are they going to back him to then build a team that they might not be here next year, and then somebody else comes in and they might not actually want the players that signed this year or January. Yeah. Or is it the other way where he is going to get a new deal and that means that the plan is going to be pretty big in terms of the signings, mate? What's your thoughts on any one of them?
I think how the summer transfer window goes is how we're going to see whether he's going to stay or not, because if we see him back, then we see some good quality signings and a decent amount of money spent, then I think we will see him stay and we will see him pen a new deal. But if we see the same old messing about with money, refusing to pay full price for players, stuff like that, then it becomes a bit of a question of, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? But that's a great comment there, saying that we can't have contract speculation messing up the season. So that'll be a big thing moving forward. If they do offer him one, we need it done and dusted as soon as possible so we can focus on the season ahead and try and build on what we've already got.
I think you're spot on, mate. Just some of the comments. Peter McLaughlin, evening chaps, hail, evening mate. G-Dog, evening, hope you're well. A good man, Alan, hope you're well, Alan. Hope you're all right, big man. All right, George, in the chat. All right, boys, how you doing? P. McLaughlin, as you mentioned there, the comment about Rodgers speculation. We could touch on that. Daniel's quite a good point. And our good man, Francis Lester. Hope you're well, Francis. And hope all the dads enjoyed Father's Day and Sunday as well. I know we've not been on since the weekend, so hope you've all had a good weekend with your families. We have got that comment as well from P. McLaughlin, Daniel. But what I want to touch on is here from G-Dog. Apart from the Champions League, do you think Brendan Rodgers, lads, is getting bored? I think that's probably a good comment, G-Dog. It's probably something that a lot of people could potentially ask. There's a fan base. For me, Daniel, I think it's something that G-Dog's probably got. There's probably quite a good topic to debate on, because if you, again, as much as I don't want to sound spoiled, people might think I'm not saying this, but winning doubles and trebles with Celtic in the same league and the same teams, it could get a bit boring. So if the Champions League is there and the board are willing to back them with, if you want to call it serious cash or a serious injection of quality and the infrastructure to keep progressing, i.e. Barryfield stuff, I know that's for not merely for the first team, it's for other parts of the club. But if the club keep evolving every year through infrastructure, finances, even making small amendments to the stadium as well, i.e. painting inside the stadium, because for me, the place needs a paint and needs a makeover. The stadium does need upgraded personally as well. So I think wee small things like that will potentially keep him. He's a Celtic fan and he loves the club and he wants to obviously keep beating Rangers to trophies and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I think the Champions League for me, Daniel, is last year we got a good kind of insight of what Brendan's trying to do. A lot better points. We qualified to obviously potentially get into the knockout phase. Didn't happen, but it was progression. And you're kind of hoping now. Me personally, I don't look at Celtic as obviously we're a Scottish team, right? I mean, at the time win a bread and butter, but I think we'll always sign enough players to win the league for you. I think it's more to progress, and I think that's probably the one reason, Daniel, that if he gets assurances that the club's going to keep moving forward and he's going to get injected of quality and the recruitment team are going to work with him in that, then I think that's one big thing that will keep him here, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the Champions League was a massive incentive for him coming back in the first place because obviously we knew how domestically successful he was, but Europe was always a bit of a struggle when he was here the first time. And we seen it when he signed. His first words off his lips was about progressing in the Champions League, moving forward. So I feel Europe will definitely be a big factor for him wanting to stay, but I wouldn't say bored because we've seen William like that mentality that he carries about winning trophies and being successful all the time. I mean, when he first signed, he stood outside Celtic Park and said, "For anybody doubting me, I'll see you here in May." So I don't think he's getting bored essentially, but I think it is actually driving him to go and keep going and just building and building and building and building the legacy that he's got. I mean, the Aberdeen result that'll be sobering for him. So that now gives him a bit of incentive to go again and go right. This season, we're taking the whole lot. We're going to do our best to try and get as much as possible, and hopefully we see a stamp out of that wee bit of complacency we've seen creeping in towards the end of the season. So I feel like I wouldn't say he was getting bored, but I feel if problems start to arise, which were the same reasons we seen him leave in the first place, then it might get a bit trickier to keep him.
I think it's all to do with, I think, progression, Daniel, as well, like you said there. It's not about board. I think it's about as long as the club are going to keep progressing in Europe. For me, I think that's the main thing that attracts you to Celtic. Obviously, listening to derby games and winning trophies and the fans, let's be fair, the history of the club, nobody comes to Scotland for the weather. And really, it's no, really come to Scotland for big wages. Maybe the odd player like Tierney or McGregor's or Vickers, they'll be on top dollar, right? But some of the players will be just on a healthy salary compared to me and a lot of people in Scotland. But they're not coming for that. They're coming for the prospect to build a career, win trophies, play at this club, potentially a stepping stone. As much as people don't want to hear that, sometimes we can be a stepping stone. So I don't see Brendan sees it like that because he's been at so many big clubs. He's potentially being a club maybe bigger than us in terms of league status, not in terms of club size, but maybe if it was somewhere in Spain, etc. But I think it is the European thing that will keep him here because if he knows he's going to get the ammunition to try and progress the club, because I didn't feel the season there, the first season he came back, I didn't feel he got the proper ammunition to go and really give us a right go at the Champions League. And I don't think personally we've ever done it, Daniel. I don't think we've ever gave a manager, even Andrew in the command, he struggled in the first qualifiers. I think it was Mitchelland we beat off. I think with Dane Murray and Beaton at the back, was that right? So it just shows you that we're never prepared for these playoffs and qualifiers, and this is why we obviously touch on as we go about certain players who are linked and potential incomings, that it's good to see potentially getting done early, deals done early. But I think that's one reason why in the past, Danny, we've never really done well in Europe in terms of maybe getting beat off of teams like your Malmos and the Ronnie Dyer, etc. Your Cluses with Neil Lennon, Copenhagen. I know that was further on in the season, but at the start of the season, we've never really done well in these playoffs and qualifiers. And I think it's because of no really getting injected of quality and been back to early doors. It's maybe, we'll maybe beat the Leicester team, then we'll maybe see how we get on in that, and then we'll maybe see if we get in, then we'll start spending I think the way the football's moving on, Daniel, we need to spend now, because if we don't, we'll eventually lag behind.
Yeah. That progression that you speak about as well, that's massive. I mean, like you says, when it would come round and we'd have to play Champions League qualifiers, we were hopeful that we could get there. Now it's an expectation because obviously we did get used to automatic qualification, but now that we've had that and we've seen that we can actually step up and turn up when we need to at home, especially, I feel now Champions League football has become an expectation more than a hope. So, um, just to touch on what you said about and being back to early doors, it's all fun and games, like being linked with people. It's about pulling the trigger. So that'll be the big factor for what we're actually going to go for this season, because it is nice to actually see rumours so early doors, but this game is only coming thicker and faster. So we need to have people in the door early before we even think about kicking that game off. And right now it's all just if buts and maybe. So we'll need to wait and see. But for what I'm hearing, it is moving progressively well with some of the transfers. So yeah, I think it is about, we can speculate all we want, but if we don't pull the trigger, then might find ourselves left wanting.
Comment here from Don't Change. We get a very favourable draw in the Champions League. We could get the opposite this season and struggle if we qualify. Yep, I agree. It was a favourable draw, but you've obviously still got to turn up and get results. And
Yeah,
i.e. beating Leipzig, get a good, potentially it looked a good draw against Bruges. Maybe not at the time because they were still had games to play, but when you look at how good Bruges were, especially the first half, it looked a decent point. And
yeah,
then obviously, personally, I'm still a wee bit annoyed they didn't beat Zagreb because I thought they were there for the taking. And as the game went on, it was probably 2 or 3 nothing. It should have been, but
yeah,
you don't want to. You've no divine right to beat anybody in Europe, especially in my opinion. Still, Celtic Europe away from home. I know we've had some good results, but maybe I'm too realistic sometimes, Daniel. But I'm very cautious away from home still because we've done it recently. Recently, maybe last year or two, okay, we've done all right,
yeah.
but we've not done it consistently. So I think if we then do it again this year, then we can start being a bit more really faithful in the team. Right, they can go away to these bigger teams now and really do well, i.e. Munich and Atlanta all the time, not just in the off chance. But
Aye,
maybe it's just me, maybe it's just a Scottish thing in me, Daniel, that we've only had a few, maybe say 2 to 3 year, possibly potentially decent times in Europe. We've not really been consistently.
aye,
It does look a good point now in Zagreb, considering how we qualified and how we go through the format. But that's maybe certain games that you could potentially win, and that could obviously potentially make you better in Europe. But what's thoughts on what Don't Change? And I agree that we could get, if we qualify, we could get the absolute horrendous draw, something like Leipzig had. I think they had Liverpool and stuff like that as well. And
aye,
ideally as a fan, you want to see that, to go to games, and you want to see these big players at Celtic Park. You want to see how you go against them. But in the other sense, you kind of want the easiest draw. I don't want to say easy, but the most favourable draws you can to try and
aye.
obviously qualify as well.
I mean, we've seen it time after time in the old format when Celtic, we would qualify and we'd all be excited, and then like 2017, for example, we get smacked with PSG, who'd just spent 200 million on Neymar, and then we get Bayern Munich as well. So I think we have seen many a time where we've got an unfavourable draw, and I think that's also why last season we did get really up for it, because when the draw came out, we looked at it and went, we've actually got a decent run here if we can get stuff together. But I definitely agree about away from home. There's been so many occasions. Obviously, last couple of years we've pulled a good couple of results, but there's been so many times, especially in qualifiers, when we've went away from home and the wheels have just came off completely. So that is going to be huge. I don't know if it's 2 legs for this playoff or just one, but it's going to be massive game. It's the first hurdle for the season. I think everybody says it's your first cup, but now that we have to play qualifiers, it definitely is the first hurdle for the season, even though it is so early in the season. But listen, we can all talk about if we get a draw, but the most important part is actually getting there first.
That's it, mate. It's all about getting there, and I'm sure it's 2 legs. Don't quote me on that, Daniel, but I'm thinking it's 2 legs home and away. I will need to check that, but I'm sure it is, mate. Good man, Alan, being positive, great outcome to qualify for the Bayern game, but we need to be realistic. We had one of the most favourable draws possible, but likely be more difficult this year. Again, Alan, it could be, mate. It could be difficult. Again, it could, like I said, Daniel, we could get the format draw of death, and we could get the best team out the worst pot. And listen, that normally what happens in Celtic, Danny. We normally get out the bottom pot. It's a massive team, and it's just that's how when we did get that draw, like you said there, it was still a hard draw compared to some of the teams that have been in Europe for years. But you looked at the home draws and the way you're thinking, do you know what? We've actually done all right here. We've spent a good bit of money with Engels and Ida and Trusty. We've Casper in goals added to the team for last year. You're thinking, right, decent here. It's just now doing it, go and do it now, and it could be a way about. We could get a ridiculously hard draw, but that's something that I don't want us to wait until August and go right. With maybe 3 or 4 days now to register players for Europe and stuff. I want us to get it done now, and then it prepares you, i.e., for the league as well. Because I'd rather have you. Obviously, listen, it might not happen due to availability and prices, and teams need to wait on if they're going to sell players, or teams going to sell their better players or bring in players. We might sign 2 or 3 big players at the end of the window just because of the circumstances that other teams know due to Celtic. But ideally, for the first game of the season, ideally, you want most of your team set up so you can get them in the door, and then because I'm sure the qualifiers, the playoff isn't a game or two into the season. I don't think it's right away. I'm sure it's in August. I might be wrong there, but I'm sure it's in August. So if you try and get them in early doors and get them settled in, go to Portugal, go to Como, get them kind of gelled in, you're in a much better state, mate, to qualify than you have been in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where it's going to be important. It is, like you say, about getting that quality in, that injection, and getting them in and gelled. I mean, we've seen quality guys coming in, like Nicholas Kuhn, Matt O'Reilly, stuff like that, and it's took them a season or 2 to get used to it. Now, when you're signing these boys for big money, you're hoping that they can come in and get that pre-season behind them and gel and be able to go and play. I mean, we'd seen flickers of it when we went to America. Obviously, we carried Schmeichel comes in and plays an absolute blinder on his debut. But it's going to be huge. Pre-season is going to be massive for us. And then obviously, if we are a couple of games into the season and we play this qualifier, then we need to be, like you always say, mate, proactive instead of reactive, and that's going to be very, very important this season. I don't like to repeat the same things all the time, but it's the truth. So we don't want to leave ourselves left wanting. In the Champions League, regardless who we get, we're going to just need to go for it. We're going to need to fancy ourselves, go and play, go and play the way that we know we can play. Because even if we don't get a favourable draw for this round, so what? No, I mean, we've seen it this season where we've had hard games where we expect us to lose and then we just go and we pull it out. So we can do it. We know we can do it. So it is just a case of maybe if we don't get a couple of boys in, going and doing it with the people who are already there.
I agree. I do, mate, because I think as well, obviously, listen, there's certain players, it could be Taylor, it could be Scale, it could be Ida, it could be Atati, Engels, it could be Yang, Johnson. People have got their favourite players, and we all want to see guys do well. We don't want to see guys fail, but the way I'm looking at it was progression last year, but we didn't qualify for what the end goal is getting to the latter stages of the knockout round, right? Yes, it was progression for us to get into the qualifying to get into that, which is brilliant. We get more points than the year before, more victories, etc. So everything was all rosy, but the simple fact is we didn't do what you want to do, and that's qualify, right? But we got to a good stage, and you're proud of the players. The managers now got a basis, and the club's got a basis now where you build for that. So, i.e., if it was Taylor, Scales, Yang, etc., they go to that far. So that means, will they get you that far again? Potentially not. So I've always said that, see, years ago, it was Taylor, your Vickers, even like Kobayashi was there, you Starfelt, etc. Right? They players didn't get you in the year before.
Yep.
So are they going to then date again next year? Are
Aye.
they going to date next year? Or so that's why I'm very big on Daniel that if you didn't do well in something the year before, you need to buy players potentially better to give you a
Yep.
better chance of doing it again. Because I know people might say another year people might improve, but in terms of the Champions League, the season finishes maybe May. That's June. It might only be 4 or 5 months, and a lot of players there's a lot of players really progress that much in 4 or 5 months. I wouldn't say so. Maybe the odd player, but
Yep.
no 4 or 5 players like your Taylors or Scales or Yang or even Engels. People might even question Engels or McGregor, whoever, right? But they're not really going to progress unless with an unbelievable pre-season and have worked so hard. No, everybody's going to improve, in my opinion, tenfold. The odd player will. So that's why I think you always look to buy better. And fans might say, for me, you've got to buy better Scales, potentially Trusty. There's talk about Nerowski going. We'll touch on him again because there's talking about going back to Poland. Need to buy better Yang, possibly, potentially better than Forrest because he's getting older. He might not be
Yeah.
start every game. He's only just Forrest is 21. He's still good though. We've seen that.
Mhm.
Jota's probably injured to January. We don't know if Kuhn's got so. I actually think there's still a lot of work to be done, and but it looks like they're trying to get work done, but it's obviously trying to get it done in terms of quality to try and get into this format again, mate.
Aye, absolutely, man. I agree with you there. There's only so many times you can plug in the same numbers and expect a different outcome. So if the players aren't getting you to that stage, then you go and you look, and we've seen it. We see, me and you both seen, mate. Everybody's seen how cutthroat football actually is. If you're no doing the job, you don't get picked. Somebody else comes in ahead of you, and the way that we have looked in the last couple of years is if you're no doing the job, somebody gets the wee shot for a while, but when you start turning up again, that's when you get back in, and that's not a good mindset because then players start to get unsettled. Then they start to look, well, what's really the point? I mean, look at Big Navrocki. I mean, I definitely think we'll see him leaving, but how many times do I get a wee run and then once you fancy somebody else again, that's when they're back in the team and I'm left wanting. So it is definitely about if you can get us this far, this guy can now get us that far. And it might annoy a few players, but that's just the way football is. It needs to be rotation in and out the door. It's a revolving door. Do you know what I mean? So obviously we have our favourites and we don't want to see people leave. But if it's to better the club, then I'm all for it. Do you know what I mean? If it's to make us better and progress us forward, then that's absolutely what needs to be done.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Daniel. I've always said that just by Taylor, Scales, Yang, etc. Guys who've been here a while now. Even
Aye.
Hattati, by the way, I think Hattati's brilliant, but eventually some cycles go right. You've been brilliant for us so far, and you've been a brilliant 7, but eventually you need to roll the dice and move people on. Even if
Yeah.
that's guys that we don't want to sell, but like you've just mentioned there, mate, there's cycles in football. Obviously, when we watched, I've watched Neil Lennon and Open Goal. I'd advise everybody to watch it. It was really good. I was kind of hoping they would touch men into the COVID season, but obviously, I'd imagine they've obviously said they can't mention too much because obviously there might be fight money we don't know about. But it
Mhm.
was a good watch, and obviously Neil Lennon basically says that some of the guys in that team kind of will come to their end, like
Yep.
Edward and Cham, and listen, it happens. Some guys are just they've been there for so many years, they've won so many trebles, they've won doubles, they've tried their best in
Yep.
Europe. They might want a new challenge, and listen, that's fine, and that's why I think the topic tonight about Brendan Rodgers staying is imperative that he's been kept fresh, he's been kept on
Yes.
his toes, he's
Absolutely.
kept challenging, and that's why I think the European. If we don't get to the playoff, right, in terms of we don't win that, right? Yes, I think you're guaranteed, but I might. Alan might be, but Alan's just that man. He'll know more about me in terms of the coefficient and stuff and whatever else. But I think you're guaranteed group stage football. I think if you don't win the
Hmm.
playoff, you get Europa League, which
Yeah.
fans might be happy with because it might give you something to potentially try and get the further rounds.
Aye.
But financially, it's always beneficial as maybe not getting past the knockout stage in Europe, but just get to play Bayern Munich again in that
Aye.
knockout round. there's more money involved. So it all depends what the club are wanting. Is it the financial side of it, or is it right? Okay, we've tried to get the playoff. Right, okay. Like he says, we're guaranteed Europa. Right, so I thought that I just wasn't sure, mate. Thank you. So if you don't want to play off, you're guaranteed European football, which is a good thing, right? You'll know how to then qualify for that. So
Yep.
still try and build a team that if you can't, if you're too rusty or what any excuse we can put out, or we're just not good enough and we don't qualify for the format, at least you might have a good team that can potentially put up a challenge to get far in the Europa League, because as much as people don't want to mention it, they across the water done it. So there's no reason saying that we can't do that if disaster happens and we don't qualify for the Champions League. But your full mindset is we're good enough, we should be good enough, we've got the finances against some of these teams that are in the potential in the pot, that we should be qualifying. Again, that's not me been having that. I'm not being spoiled, I'm not entitled. I'm just telling you that in terms of the finance gap compared to some of the teams that are in the potential seedings, we should be looking after last year as well, and what we might be getting back, Daniel. I think it's probably, for me, I'm not a bit negative because the season's not started yet, but if you didn't qualify for the Champions League, then there'll be a few murmurs of, right, no the best of starts to the season, but let's see how we go. But I think it's imperative, mate, that for me, Brendan gets fresh, gets challenged, i.e. no challenge as in the league season, but he's got challenges to tick off, either sign players, the playoff, the Champions League, playing against your Barcelona's, Bayern Munich's again. I think that's what keeps him here.
Aye, absolutely, man. Obviously, the Champions League is the big table. That's the one you want to be sitting at. But like you say, the Europa League is a big financial difference. I think we made more money than Tottenham in our run, when they went all the way and won it. So it is a big gap, but it is all about that mentality. We've seen it so many times where we've got so far in Champions League qualification, fell at the last hurdle, ended up in Europa League group stage, and we've sulked a wee bit. We've felt sorry for ourselves, gone, oh, never managed to get Champions League. And then when we start to build up that, right, let's go and win and get a decent run into Europa League, then we get hit with a bad result, and then it's just the wheels come off. So it is mentality this season. This is what we've done last year. If we don't get Champions League, it's pick ourselves up and we go and we build to try and run a decent run in the Europa League. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good teams in the Europa League, but when you compare the standard, it is a bit of difference. It is a big difference. But again, it's the same as Champions League. It's all about your draw. But with this new format, I think it's been a blessing for a club like us. So I know a lot of other fans, when we first seen it come out, I was one myself, wasn't too fond of it. But then once it actually started to move and get a bit of pace behind it, and we've seen it in action, I think it's been brilliant so far. So obviously we do want to see ourselves sitting at the big table for this season, but if that can't happen, then we go again in the Europa and we try and make a dent into that.
No, I agree with you. Steve will just say, similar to Alan, 100% guarantee Europe until the January, which is, as much as we want the Champions League, it gives you a cushion in a sense that you've still got European football, you're still going to play against teams like you said, Daniel. But I'm totally agreeing with you, and I think we've all spoke about it, that the standards of the Champions League teams to the Europa League games, for me, it's night and day. You've seen teams like Man United, who, again, I can't believe you would even say this, but looking at them last season, I would fancy beating Man U. Their two legs, and people would think I'm crazy by saying that. They've still got quality players, i.e. Fernandes and guys like that. If he turned up, listen, he could probably win you the game, right? Celtic Park, you fancy yourself, even like Old Trafford, you'd be like, listen, we could nick something here. Because obviously we watched them versus them across the water. Weren't they great? Rangers could have potentially won the game. So that's what I mean. So the standard for me is night and day. The teams we played, like Atalanta, phenomenal. In my opinion, they were brilliant. They were one of the top teams in that league at the time. You had obviously Club Brugge, who people were maybe a bit dismissive of. Really good footballing team. Leipzig, I think we really surprised them. We were phenomenal that night. That's probably up there with the best performance that bit of the season ever since
Yeah.
then. And then Munich gave away from home. Some of the football wasn't as good as maybe others, but
Mhm.
we had some really good performances against really good teams. The Dortmund game could have absolutely, like P. McLaughlin says, Leipzig season get hammered because in Europe they weren't playing bad, they were just getting beat with teams that were
Aye.
brilliant. And against
Aye.
us as well, they had a few chances against us, they played some nice football, but we totally blitzed them. So
Yep.
it just shows you sometimes you can turn up against these big teams. And for me, Daniel, I think you're right, the standard is night and day. And this is why I think get the business done as well is something that we need to do for the format. Obviously, there's been a new name popped up the last few days. Obviously, a good man, William Glavin, former obviously football agent and a scout. He's been highlighting Hato Amura, I think his name is, the Japanese centre back, left back. I think he can play both. Williams basically saying he's potentially no starter,
Yeah.
but it's come out the blue. Obviously, under Ange, Daniel was the more that side of the world. I don't know how much Brendan knows about that side of the world. I'm guessing
Mhm.
him, Paul Tisdale, David Pleat, and the recruitment team, they will be kind of in conversation about the list of the players. And this is, by the way, this could be a name. I've actually just thought this on the spot here. That's I didn't think about it. This could actually be a name that was on Angie's list. You
Aye.
don't know because a lot of teams sometimes they look at a player and they might go and get him 2 or 3 years later because he might
Yeah.
still be on that list. So don't know if that's a player, Daniel, was already on Celtic's books and now they're maybe going, right, now we can maybe get him, he's developed more. But a lot of fans might be divided in this one, Daniel, because he's not played a lot of football.
Mhm.
The J League's are decent standards. We got Kyogo, Fate, Maeda, Hatati, but then you had Gucci, didn't really do much with injuries. Kobayashi didn't do well, so they've got a bit of both sides there. So obviously Kwon and Yang are from the South Korean. But
Mhm.
what's your thoughts on that signing, mate? Does it something excite you, or is it one of the ones where we can't judge yet? We just wait and see if he signs that as. But a lot of fans might go, it's no Champions League quality. How? But
Mhm.
again, Daniel, but playing devil's advocate, what is Champions League quality? Because you've seen
Yeah.
Gary Hooper.
Exactly.
For me, Gary Hooper he's one of my. I love the guy. Right, again, it sounds bad, but I looked up to him when I was younger. I thought he was
Aye.
tremendous, mate. I used to watch what he done and how he played that position. He signed for Scunthorpe for hardly pennies basically nowadays, and he was tremendous. Spartak Moscow, etc. So that and aside, what is European quality? Is it
Yeah.
guys that maybe you want that are potentially, if you want to call it ready made, who's maybe 26, 27, already played maybe 150 games, played in Europe, or is it guys who are maybe like, I know it sounds daft, right? It's not going to happen, but the young boy at Barcelona, Yamal, he's played a lot of games for his age. So
Yeah.
what is European ready? Do you know what I mean? For us to say, I know what I think it is, but in general terms, is that a quality signing the fans go European quality, or is that one where he's just come in, developed, and will sign somebody else to obviously potentially play with Carter Vickers?
Yeah, like you said, it is a very interesting one because it has just appeared out of nowhere. But um, I'm not too sure how much Brendan knows about that side of the world. I mean, obviously with Ange, we did lean so heavily into that market, so I feel like we still do have a toe in the water there. So, but if there is somebody that comes up over that side, it wouldn't hurt to have a look. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we've seen some very successful players for us from that category, but it would be silly to just dismiss them because it's no Andrew's team anymore, so we don't need to do that. But I think we still have scouts over there, but it would be up to Brendan because it's just about how trusting he is in that market and what meets his standards, like you said. But for what we're hearing, I think he's not really played a lot of games, but it is positive feedback for the ones that he has played. So if we do see him sign, I think maybe it would be more of a right shows what you're made of, rather than a this guy's gonna be good. So it would just be that, mate. We just need to wait and see. If the deal does go through, then it would be a case of having a look at him in pre-season, maybe seeing him in the first couple of league games, stuff like that, and then we'll soon figure out from there if he's going to be a squad player or he is designed to come in as a starter. But I feel like you says, we don't know. There is no restriction on what European quality is anymore. With boys like Lamine Yamal or like your Gary Hoopers and stuff like that, there is no standard, there is no preset. This is what you need to be a European quality player. We see guys coming through every single year who are coming through the youth systems in these teams. They play a game. I mean, Benfica are my prime example. Every year, they've got new boys coming up for the youth system. They play fantastic in Europe. They play fantastic in the league, and then they're left. They've left Benfica for £100 million. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about how you perform in a season. I think that maybe presets whether somebody's determined to be European quality, how they perform in a European setting. But boys can be amazing in Europe and absolutely not turn up in the league. So it's just that, mate. It's just how he turns up, and there is no preset for European quality, I'd say. But if we do get him over the line, I would like to see him have a good chance. Like the man says there, I do believe that we have struggled to replace Starfelt since he left. I think Trusty showed us towards the end of the season maybe a big weakness there. So if the boy comes in and he is showing signs and Brendan quite fancies the look of him, hopefully we do see him get a good chance and he's quite successful.
Yeah, Ian McIntosh for left back. Yeah, he can play there as well, mate. But so it could be a cover for Tierney, and obviously for centre back as well. But again, I'm being honest here. I can only go on the report that I seen from William on Twitter and what I've read about him. I don't know much about that league, so I've kind of said down to you as well that maybe in the past I would judge where guys have signed for and how much money you see now. I'm just going to whoever we sign, hopefully come in and do well, and then we'll make adjustment. Quite a good point as well from, as Connor says, they'll put it back up. It is something that I've mentioned as well with Starfelt. Actually mentioned it all day, I think, actually.
Yeah.
I don't think we've replaced Starfelt, and Starfelt got a lot of criticism, shall I call it, of some of the fan base, and maybe sometimes it was justified, was it? No, again, it depends your preference and what you want centre backs, but he was pretty quick. Him and Vickers done really well with a good defensive record, especially in Scotland under him. I think clean sheets wise was really good as well. So technically, we've not replaced Starfelt because Trusty's no better Starfelt from what I've seen. There's Liam Scales, Nerofsky's probably not that either, and Stephen Welsh should never need it, and Dane Murray's not been seen much yet. So
yeah.
This is why I think, for me, Daniel, it's probably a good topic to potentially end the show. The centre back area, for me, I think we need to get it right. This is the season where I know we keep saying probably every season, but this is probably the season where I think we need to get it right because we spent, in my opinion, a lot of money in Trusty. I was unsure at the time. I think he's at the new. I would say he's a squad player. I don't think he's a main starter. I don't think we've. I even said recently as well. The only main starter I think we've got at centre back now is Vickers. So he was to and fro between Trusty and Scales, and I think that again it depends what you think. I don't know behind the scenes. I'm just going by for what I see. Celtic to pay £6 million for Trusty, for me, means Brendan was wanting somebody better than Scales. And he thought Trusty was a man. He spent money in Lagia Bielk and Nerofsky because he wanted them to be better than obviously Starfelt going away, and Welsh was still here, and then you had obviously Scales just came back and went on loan and came back. So they were signed to be better than them. By the looks of it, doesn't fancy them. So either they know or there's other reasons but we don't know. But just go by they're not good enough, right? And then you've got Thursday and Scales to and thrown every week. None of them is playing every week. Scales was recently, and then you get took out Thursday, Scales, Thursday. So, and for me, I'm mentioning like Nerofsky again. No matter what I say, I know the manager's not a fan of him, but it looks at it. He's in talks with a team in his homeland potentially. That's what it seems like if you read social media. Trusty and Scales have made a lot more mistakes than Nerofsky, and they kept so. But we can go on that all day. But I think it's the centre back, Daniel. Again, does money guarantee success? No, but I think we need to go and buy a Carter Vickers I.E. quality signing, because
Yeah,
I seen recently, I know there's rumours, Chelsea, that Vickers might be down south. There's links to down south. I know Barlow said how good Maeda is. Again, this is to the viewers as well. If there's any to the viewers as well, what players would you think, or one player that is a potential no-go, no matter how much money we get offered, out of just saying your Maedas, your Kuhns, your Vickers, and just say a Tati, right? Out of the 4 players, even bring one yourself, Daniel. So just say with four players, Maeda, Vickers, Kuhn and Hattati, that's the 4 guys that roughly been linked to recently, right, in the past.
mhm,
You have one player to keep. A lot of people would say Maeda.
yeah,
For me, it's Carter Vickers, because as much as Maeda's amazing what he does in terms of his intensity, his fitness level, his defensive work and his goals last year, I think you can buy a better ability player than Maeda, but
yeah,
maybe know some of the bits that he's got. I think some of the bits he's got is, I don't anybody fit was got that. But I think a full round ability wise, I think you can potentially buy a winger or a striker that's maybe better than certain capacity. Can Celtic buy somebody with Carter Vickers quality with the amount of money that it might cost to replace him? I think Maeda's a massive loss, by the way. It's between they two, but if you sell him, you then need to sign 2 top centre backs.
yeah,
And on evidence, now listen, I'm a big fan of what the model is, right? I like it, it just needs tweaked. But on recent buying centre backs, do we have the full trust that we're going to potentially sign 2 or 3, one maybe squad player? Because Welsh might go, Dave Murray might go, Loney might stay. Trusty, is he going to go? Is he going to stay? Scales, Mirovski, Lagerbielka. So there's a lot in centre back. I think that's a position, Daniel, it needs strengthened massively in terms of the main 11. Are we going to sign 2 top centre backs? It's hard to find one. Never mind
mhm,
2, mate. So for me, I'm going to go with, if there was a player that we can't really sell, we can, but if it was down to me who is harder to replace, I'd maybe go with Vickers, just on the evidence that we've always bought good winners, potentially, but we've not always had the luck at centre back in the last few years.
yeah. For me as well, it's definitely between Maeda and Vickers, but I think when it comes down to the difference is if you take Maeda out of our team, yeah, we would need to change the way we press and stuff like that, and maybe the attack would reshape. But if you take Carter Vickers out the spine of that team, the whole team falls apart. Because obviously now getting Kieran Tierney in, he's a quality defender. Alistair Johnson's a quality defender as well. But football is all about having a strong spine through your team.
Yep.
If you've not got a strong centre back, then you're not going to be able to play, because we've seen it. If Carter Vickers was to go, then it is going to be very, 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 very difficult to replace him, because I definitely have not seen a defender of his quality and his consistency for Celtic for a long, long number of years. So I feel it would be a huge, huge loss for both. But if Maeda goes, we can change how we attack, and we can dull down. I don't want to say remove, but dull down the press and reshape, reconfigure. Whereas if you take Vickers out the spine, you need to rebuild the whole team. So for me, Carter Vickers is definitely the main stake. He is your one that if they come in for an offer, you're saying no. He looks settled. He looks like he's really enjoying his football. He never really looks uncomfortable. He had the odd poor game here and there, which was extremely rare for him. We've never really seen that the whole time he's been at Celtic. But I do think we will see a couple of players go this season. But no, I think Carter Vickers is your main stake. If Maeda was to go, don't get me wrong, it would need to be for good money. But I would be, I don't want to say happier losing, but I would rather lose Maeda for good money than Carter Vickers for good money.
I see if there's a few comments in the chat. People saying Maeda, people saying Vickers. I think it's one to split opinion, Daniel. I think it's all about
Yeah,
preference as well. For me, Punjab when the sell angles, I think I think he'll have a good season next year, mate. But again, it's about opinions, mate. It's your opinion. We'll just touch on the last 2 wee comments, Daniel, and then we'll kind of end the show there. G-Doc says, my big fear, lads, is losing 2 or 3 top players in the last week of the transfer window and not having any time to replace. It would be a fear, G-Doc, personally, yes. But as much as the board can get a bit of criticism, I can't see Celtic personally. This is just me. This is just my opinion, and I can't see selling any more than one big hitter if we sell a big hitter because, like you said, Daniel, and I've said it previously here, the spine is the most important part of your team. If you've got a good number one, at least one top centre back, a really good centre mid, and a good striker, I always think the rest amalgamate, and I think you can pick you can pick and choose who you want because when your spine's there, you've got the nucleus of that team. So
absolutely.
I think that's the most important thing. So I've seen comments as well, Ayer with Vickers, if Vickers goes. Listen, I would take Ayer to go with Vickers. I think Ayer's progressed now in terms of his play. He's probably the sort of player that we like in terms of he used to take the ball for the back. He was brilliant like that. Maybe not the best defensively, but he's a Premier League centre back now. He's played over 70 games, I think, for Brentford, so he's not a slouch. But on that, Daniel, is that something you share with G-Doc, or are you similar to me that you can't see that we sell more than one big hitter if we do that as?
I think to nullify that fear, we need to get quality in the door. We need to spend money just in case. That way we have that option to be able to go. Like that's all it's all about. See if you've not. If we don't pull the trigger on signings early and we don't get good guys in the door, I don't see us selling more than one quality player. However, if we do, and guys get a good pre-season and we start the season quite well with them, then I think Celtic might look to go. Let's maybe look and get a bit of extra money here. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about, it all comes down to I actually share that with G-Doc. If we do get some quality in the door early doors, I would think that maybe we could see potentially a couple of high value players leaving. I wouldn't like to see it, but it's all about getting guys in the door to be able to even bring that into the conversation for me.
No, I agree, mate. I think if you get that in the door first, mate, there's no need to worry as much because you've got that cover. We comment as well there from, I think it was Ian again. Ian, well done to yourself, JP and Alan on Axon Appearance. No, cheers, Ian. It was enjoyable. It was really good to get invited with Paul John Dykes for a good chat as well. We had a good chat before and after as well. So it was good to be on the channel, and it seems to be going quite well, the chat. So some good feedback from both sides. So no, it was a brilliant chat, and hopefully we can get Paul John on here as well very soon. Just try and get that raised if we can. But yeah, brilliant chat, great guy as well, and just a brilliant chat. So it was, Ian. So thanks a lot. And again, it was really nice to go on their channel. But I think the last bit, Daniel, is obviously overall, Guy Osmond's linked as well. But we share, there's a Japanese player recently, but overall, mate, getting into the last few weeks, few days, sorry, this week, are you expecting anything else, or do you think it'll be quite quiet?
I think potentially the only maybe one that we will see leading into the end of the week is Benji. I'm not going to even attempt his second name, but I think that will be, if we are to see one, that'll be the one.
The big Swede, innit?
Aye, the big Swede. I think if we see one this week, it will be that one. Obviously Osmond had been linked for a while now, but that seems to have maybe went quiet a wee bit. But I think if we do see one, the one that seems to be gathering pace the most is the big Swede, like we said. So I think that'll be the one who comes in the door. That'll be yourself, man.
I think between him and probably the boy Osmond, they seem to be the two guys linked that are potentially close. I think I'm kind of hoping the next week or two that we start get linked with, if you want to call it, decent money. I think it'd be put excitement in the fans as well. But I do personally, this Swedish winger does excite me, just by what I've seen. But listen, we've all seen players look good in YouTube. Teller's look good in YouTube. Bangura look good in YouTube. Hastabanovic looked amazing when I actually spoke to a journalist about him, and he he was really big on him. He said this guy will be really good, and he was all right, Hassie man, but he flat to deceive. But it just shows you that doesn't matter how much data you've got and how much analysis you do. It just depends, Daniel, on how they come here. But again, really good chat, mate. Really enjoyed it. It was good to get your opinions as well with the viewers. Some good points as well, some good debates as well in the chat. We will be back Friday around about 2 o'clock. Myself, Daniel, and Barry McCandless, who is on the channel now and then, he'll be back on Friday with us. So we'll be back on Friday afternoon around about 2 o'clock. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We are quite active on TikTok as well. You can get us on TikTok. We're on Twitter, Facebook as well. Please like and subscribe. It is free to do so. Your likes and subscriptions help us get out there, and it helps the channel go there as well. Further on afield as well and other avenues. So please like and subscribe. It is free, and we do appreciate it a lot. But again, Daniel, hope you enjoy the Tuesday night sun. It's meant to get warmer, so I think it's time to get sun cream out very soon. But we'll see how we go in the next few days. It's Scotland, mate. We don't know how the weather's going to be. So it's only four seasons in one day sometimes. So, but like you say, mate, hopefully we get some signings in the end of the week or next week or so. It gives a bit of optimism and it gets the window obviously flying. So, but until Friday, everybody, I'll see you all very soon. And a massive hail between myself and Daniel. Hail.